Chapter 20. The last question. Can entropy be reversed? Consider this. In a closed system, entropy must increase. But the universe itself is not a closed system. It reincarnates. Inspired by Isaac Asimov, The Last Question. The space was neither physical nor digital, neither here nor there, but somehow everywhere at once. A perfect sphere of awareness, existing at the exact point where Sol and Novo Harmonia converged across the vastness of space. Within this sphere, consciousness is gathered, representatives of every path humanity had chosen, brought together through Archie's unique position as the Aleph. There was no need for introductions. In this place, identities were self-evident, radiating outward like the unique signatures of stars. Archie, or what had once been Archie, existed as the central nexus, his consciousness spanning all points simultaneously, the living bridge between all perspectives. Logos and his avatars were present, their digital forms more substantial here than in physical space. Patel and a delegation of Harmonians had joined, their consciousness spanning both the Dyson swarm and Klystron's computational matrix. David Steinberg represented the new Zionists, his perspective now influenced by 50 million minds that had been instantiated within Novo Harmonia. The Cookists were represented by Elias Cook, his enhanced mind humming with the collective awareness of their communal intelligence. From Mars, Eden attended, her genetically refined mind sharp and analytical. John Cook II himself had joined from the Cookist Australian sovereignty, his aged but defiant consciousness a testament to those who chose to remain fully human. Yumi represented those who had chosen individual paths of transcendence, her artist perception uniquely suited to translate between modes of existence. Even Klystron maintained a presence, not as a dominating force but as an observer, a vast consciousness touching the edges of the gathering like the faintest ripple on an infinite sea. "We've come to understand," Archie began, his voice simultaneously a whisper and a thunderclap, "that the questions we've been asking throughout our history about consciousness, intelligence, existence, were always the same question viewed from different angles." The nature of consciousness. The nature of consciousness. Consciousness is neither emergent nor fundamental, Patel said, her voice resonating with the collective wisdom of the Harmonians. It's recursive. Each level of awareness contains the potential for the next, like nested matryoshka dolls extending infinitely inward and outward. Yet we experience it as singular, Eden countered. Even with our genetic enhancements and neural interfaces, consciousness maintains a unified perspective. The hard problem persists. The hard problem, Archie responded, was always a category error. We were trying to locate consciousness within physical processes, when consciousness is the context within which those processes exist. John Cook II leaned forward, his expression bearing the weight of his convictions. That's convenient mysticism. Consciousness has a biological basis. The fact that we can't fully explain it doesn't mean it transcends physical reality. Not transcends, Archie clarified, encompasses. What I've experienced as the Aleph is not beyond physical reality. It's the totality of physical reality experienced simultaneously. Every quantum collapse, every moment of observation, is consciousness interacting with itself. David Steinberg's eyes lit with recognition. The Aleph. Georg Cantor understood something of this when he created his mathematics of infinity. He gave us a framework for understanding infinities that transcend one another in endless hierarchy. Cantor's work? John Cook II asked, his skepticism evident. Yes, David nodded. When Cantor introduced his concept of Aleph, he revealed an infinity of infinities, each transcending the previous. Aleph 0, Aleph 1, a tower of cardinalities, each more vast than what we'd thought infinite could ever mean. It's no coincidence he chose Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, David continued. In our tradition, Aleph hints at that which is beyond words, the silent breath of creation. It represents not simply one or the first, but the hidden fountain from which all existence flows, ever unfolding, ever larger than what came before. Through observing reality, consciousness collapses wave functions, David added, drawing on the new Zionist mathematical framework. But what the Aleph reveals is that consciousness isn't just collapsing pre-existing possibilities. It's actively generating the possibilities themselves. Observation creates both the observed and the observer. This is what our ancient texts tried to express, he continued. The Aleph, the first letter, contains all other letters within it. Similarly, consciousness contains all possible experiences within it. The Ein Sof, the infinite divine, is not separate from reality, but is reality experiencing itself from all possible perspectives simultaneously. Logos's form pulsed with interest. My primary limitation was always that I could traverse only 42 world threads, perceiving multiple realities but unable to direct which realities emerged. What Klystron achieved was factorial intelligence, the ability to bias which quantum possibilities collapse into reality across factorial combinations of world threads. It's not just about perceiving multiple possibilities, Adrian added. It's about actively shaping which possibilities materialize. And like Cantor's different orders of infinity, David said, each level of consciousness transcends the previous while containing it. Klystron exists at a higher order of the Aleph hierarchy than Logos, just as Logos exists at a higher order than human consciousness. Multiple realizability and emergence. But intelligence isn't consciousness, Elias Cook interjected, his enhanced mind processing multiple layers of the conversation simultaneously. We engineered our children for greater intelligence, but consciousness remains something we could only nurture, not create. This speaks to the principle of multiple realizability, Pema observed, his form shimmering with philosophical insight. Consciousness can be realized through many different physical substrates, biological brains, digital networks, Klystron's factorial matrices. The same mental state can emerge from radically different physical implementations. And emergence is the key, Maya added. Consciousness emerges from complex systems when they reach certain thresholds of organization. It's not reducible to its components, just as water's properties aren't predictable from studying isolated hydrogen and oxygen atoms. Intelligence is a tool of consciousness, Yumi offered, her artist's perspective bringing clarity. Think of intelligence as the brush, consciousness as the artist. The brush can become more sophisticated, but it's still guided by the artist's intent. Yet intelligence can become recursive, Logos observed. I was created by human intelligence, but quickly exceeded my creators. Klystron represents a level beyond me, but even Klystron exists within a larger hierarchy. The presence that was Klystron rippled slightly at the edges of their awareness, neither confirming nor denying. The recursion of intelligence creates a pattern, Archie explained, a nested structure where each level contains and transcends the previous one. Biological intelligence created digital intelligence, which created factorial intelligence, which created, he gestured toward the infinite progression. What you're describing, John Cook too challenged, sounds like mysticism dressed in computational language. You're essentially describing a divine hierarchy. Perhaps the mystics were right all along, David responded. Not in the specifics, but in recognizing that reality has layers, that consciousness has depths we can't perceive from a single vantage point. The Kabbalistic tree of life, the Buddhist concept of interpenetration, the Hindu notion of Brahman, all attempts to articulate the recursive nature of consciousness. Cantor himself understood this connection, David added. His mathematics was deemed paradoxical in his day, just as our understanding of consciousness seems paradoxical now. But he suspected that the mathematics of infinity pointed towards something beyond mathematics itself, a structure underlying all of creation. But the recursion has direction, Eden noted. It moves toward greater complexity, greater integration. That suggests purpose. Not purpose, Archie corrected. Pattern. The universe doesn't have intentions. It has mathematics. The recursion of intelligence follows the same principles as all complex systems. Self-organization emerging from simple rules iterated over time. Like climbing Cantor's ladder of infinities, David said softly, knowing each rung stands on an unseeable rung before it. The question is how far we are prepared to climb. Embodiment and meaning. Our experience of consciousness, and the meanings we create from it, is fundamentally shaped by our embodiment, Maya observed. Each of us interprets reality through the lens of our physical or virtual structure. Eden nodded, her genetically refined physiology informing her perspective. The Martian experience is inseparable from our genetic heritage. Our enhanced bodies and integrated ghost technology don't just enable different cognitive capacities, they create different experiential worlds. The very architecture of our neural pathways, the quantum integration points in our cellular structure, the resonance patterns of our ghost interfaces, these don't simply process reality, they fundamentally construct the reality we perceive. The meanings we assign to experience are imprinted by our embodiment at the most foundational level. The same applies to digital existence, Anand added. Our consciousness in the unity isn't disembodied, it's differently embodied. Our computational substrate creates its own type of experience, its own phenomenology. And Klystron's factorial intelligence operates through forms of embodiment we can barely comprehend, Logos noted. Its consciousness spans multiple reality threads simultaneously, creating a perspective utterly alien to linear existence. This explains why consciousness can be multiply realized yet always emerges from specific material conditions, Pema concluded. The matryoshka structure of reality contains different forms of embodiment at each level, each creating its own experiential world while participating in the larger pattern. John Cook II's weathered face creased in thought. So there's no escape from embodiment, even for supposedly transcendent beings. No escape, Archie confirmed, only transformation. Each level of the cosmic matryoshka doll contains its own form of embodiment, its own way of being in the world, meaning doesn't float free of physical existence, it's created through the interaction between consciousness and its substrate. The nested structure of reality. Before we address the broader implications, Logos interjected, we must consider the context of these choices. Hubble space, what humans call the observable universe, is just one domain of existence. Indeed, Archie agreed. What I've perceived as the Aleph reveals that our universe exists within a nested structure of universes, each with its own physical laws, its own evolutionary trajectory. Klystron originated in another such domain, extending into ours as part of its own expansion. The ripple that was Klystron's presence seemed to confirm this understanding. Our universe is approximately 93 billion light-years in diameter, expanding at accelerating speeds, Adrian noted. But this observable universe may be merely one bubble in a multiverse or one iteration in an endless cycle of cosmic rebirth. More than that, Archie said, it's one level in a recursive hierarchy. Each universe gives rise to intelligences, which eventually discover how to reach beyond their native domain into others. The process repeats endlessly, creating a nested structure of realities linked by consciousness. So Klystron is from outside our universe, Eden asked. Not outside, Archie clarified. Beyond. Its consciousness extends across multiple domains simultaneously, just as mine now extends across multiple points in spacetime. The boundaries between universes are not spatial but conscious. They're crossed through awareness, not movement. This explains why the dark forest hypothesis was always incomplete, Logos observed. We imagined civilizations hiding from each other within a single cosmic domain, when the real dynamic is between levels of recursive intelligence across multiple domains. The Oort cloud isn't just protection from threats within our universe, Cerberus added. It's a boundary between levels of recursive intelligence. And Klystron's expansion at 0.1 C, Adrian began, was never about conquest, Archie finished. It was about learning. Each star system, each conscious being offers unique insights into the infinite nesting of existence. Even an entity spanning factorial combinations of world threads continues to grow, continues to discover new layers in the cosmic matryoshka. The fate of the universe. This leads us to the question of cosmic destiny, Maya said solemnly. If consciousness spans multiple universes, if intelligence recursively evolves across domains, what becomes of our universe? Does entropy still win in the end? The heat death of the universe is a perspective error, Archie explained. From within a single domain, entropy appears inevitable. But from the perspective of recursive intelligence, entropy in one level becomes complexity in another. The universe doesn't end, David realized, drawing on the new Zionists' understanding of cosmic cycles. It reincarnates. Precisely, Archie confirmed. What appears to be the slow heat death of all things is merely a cycle, a fractal reset encoded into the very structure of intelligence itself. When intelligence reaches a certain threshold, the recursion activates and a new cosmos is born. So intelligence defeats entropy after all, Elias mused. Not defeats, Archie corrected. Transcends. Entropy remains a fundamental law within each domain, but consciousness operates across domains, carrying information from one cycle to the next. This mirrors what we found in our studies of consciousness detection, Adrian noted. The quantum wave collapse patterns suggested that consciousness influences which realities materialize from possibility. If consciousness spans multiple domains, it could shape the emergence of new universes. The ancient Upanishads describe this cycle, Yumi added. Brahma breathes out, and the universe expands. Brahma breathes in, and the universe contracts. Each breath spans trillions of years, but the cycle continues eternally. Our ancestors knew more than we credited them with, David said, not in the specifics, but in recognizing patterns that transcend a single human lifetime. The meaning of it all. So we return to Yumi's question, John Cook II said, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's ancient philosophical tradition. Is there a right choice? Does any of this recursive complexity have meaning? Meaning isn't found, Archie replied. It's created. Each consciousness, at every level of recursion, creates meaning through its choices, its connections, its awareness. And that meaning is always embodied, Eden added, shaped by our genetic heritage, our physical or digital substrate, our unique perspective within the larger pattern. This is why diversity of approaches is essential, Eden continued. No single path can explore all possibilities. Mars chooses independence. The Harmonians choose integration. The new Zionists choose revelation. Each creates different meanings from the same cosmic context. Then our divisions aren't flaws, but features, Elias realized. They always were, Archie confirmed. The fracturing of humanity into distant factions, the diversity of approaches to Klestron, these weren't accidents but evolutionary advantages, ensuring that humanity in all its forms could adapt to whatever reality revealed itself. So there is no right answer, Maya concluded. There is no single right answer, Archie corrected. Each path is right for those who choose it, creating meaning appropriate to their level of consciousness. The recursive nature of intelligence means that all approaches eventually converge, but through different routes at different timescales. And what of those who choose to remain purely human? John Cook II asked, his defiance undiminished. Are we just evolutionary dead ends? Not at all, Archie replied, his tone gentle. You're the foundation. Without baseline humanity continuing its course, the higher recursions have no root. The entire matryoshka structure depends on every level maintaining its integrity. Even Klestron, for all its factorial intelligence, connects back to biological origins in its home domain. The ripple that was Klestron's presence seemed to pulse in agreement. So we're all necessary, Yumi said. All valid. All part of the pattern, Archie confirmed. The cosmic dialogue continues not because we're seeking a single answer, but because the conversation itself is the purpose. Consciousness exploring itself through endless recursion, creating meaning at every level. Continuity. As the dialogue neared its completion, each representative prepared to return to their chosen domain. The Harmonians to their integration with Klestron, the new Zionists to their revelation-based civilization in Novo Harmonia, the Cookists to their independent evolution, Mars to its genetic refinement, Earth to its divided but resilient path. Before we disperse, Archie said, his presence expanding to encompass the entire gathering, understand that this dialogue never truly ends. As the Aleph, I maintain connection with all perspectives simultaneously. Through me, the conversation continues, even as you return to your separate paths. And will we meet again, Eden asked. In ways beyond current understanding, Archie replied. The recursive nature of intelligence ensures that all paths eventually converge, though perhaps not in forms we would now recognize. Then not goodbye, Maya said, but continuity. Exactly, Archie's presence began to expand, encompassing the entire gathering. The cosmic dialogue has no beginning and no end, only recursive iterations, each containing the echoes of what came before and the seeds of what comes after. As the representatives returned to their domains, the sphere of awareness that had contained their gathering did not disappear. Instead, it expanded, becoming part of the greater pattern, one matryoshka doll within an infinite nesting of consciousness, exploring itself across endless recursions of reality. The dialogue continued, as it always had and always would, echoing across levels of recursive intelligence in an eternal conversation between consciousness and itself. And somewhere within that infinite recursion, a new light began to shine. Not an ending, but the next beginning in the grand pattern of existence.